Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing the Reread, Rewrite, and Burn book challenge, Fantasy Romance Edition. Alright guys, so for those of you unfamiliar with the Reread, Rewrite, and Burn book challenge, I have placed 12 fantasy romance titles in this jar, and I'm going to be randomly selecting 3 books at a time, and I'll have to decide which book I want to reread, which book I want to rewrite, and unfortunately, which book I want to burn. And don't worry, I will give you a spoiler-free plot synopsis of every book before I make these tough decisions. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram, Goodreads, and Patreon, all linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's get into the Reread, Rewrite, and Burn book challenge. All right, guys, so round 1, let's see what book I pull first. So, first up, we have The Scattered Bones. Okay, so this is a dark romantasy standalone. We're following this girl whose greatest love, Cade, has recently been horrifically killed and his body parts have been scattered across the realm. So she ends up meeting a stranger that tells her that if she is able to find her loved one's body parts, then he will be able to bring Cade back to life. So she agrees, but this mission is so much more dangerous than that, because not only are her loved one's body parts kind of scattered everywhere, they're also being guarded by these vengeful gods. So she's going to have to overcome these obstacles in order to get these different body parts, and I loved this book. It is dark, and some of it is a tad uncomfortable to read, but I loved it so much. So this is going to be a difficult one. Put that to the side. All right, next up we have The Goddess of. That was kind of cheating. It was just kind of sticking at the top. I do realize that. But this is a dark, kind of urban fantasy. We're following this goddess whose mother has been cursed. And in order for her to break her mother's curse, she has to marry another god. And she has absolutely no interest in doing this. So she ends up escaping to the mortal lands where she meets this guy who kind of shows her what true love is really like. And it is dual timelines, so we're like kind of following her past. So like what's led up to these events, but then also this budding romance. And I did really enjoy this. This does feature animal death. So know that going in, it does happen on page. But overall, this was a really solid like urban fantasy. And I am not the biggest fan of urban fantasy. And then last up, let's see. We have Blood and Steel, which is the first book in the Legend of Thesmar series. I actually just completed a read-along of this series with my patrons. Blood and Steel was my second favorite book in that series. So if you're unfamiliar, we are following Althea, and Althea has grown up wanting to become a warrior. Unfortunately, women are no longer allowed to wield weapons in this community, so she's been practicing in secret, and one day she is discovered, and the person that discovers her is named Wilder, who is a warrior, and reluctantly he has to become her mentor, so she is going to train and hopefully pass these trials that allow her to fulfill her dreams, and it is such an amazing series. So, this is going to be tough. I'm going to go get the books, and then I have a very tough decision to make. Alright, I am back with the books, and now I have to decide what I'm going to do with them. I feel like typically I kind of rush these decisions, and then when I'm editing these videos back, I'm always like, why did you make that choice? So we are going to try not to do that today. That being said, I have no idea which of these I want to burn. I typically like know the one I want to burn and then kind of work backwards. I really enjoyed all of these books. I think I have a plan. I don't know if this is a good plan, but we will see. So as of now, I'm thinking I'm going to reread Blood and Steel, the first book in the Legend of Thesmar series, just because this was such a solid start to a series. I don't think I could rewrite it any better. Obviously, I could not rewrite any of these books any better. We're just assuming I'm like an amazing writer for this challenge. But yeah, there's nothing I would really change with this. So I think I will reread Blood and Steel. So that one is safe. Which brings us to the Goddess of and the Scattered Bones. I definitely know which one I rated higher, and I think that's how we're gonna do it. So I will rewrite the Scattered Bones, and honestly, I would only just make this a little bit longer, maybe make it a duology. There is so much packed into this story that I feel like it can really be expanded upon. So I will rewrite the Scattered Bones, which unfortunately means I'm going to be burning the Goddess of. Now, once again, I did absolutely love this. I am just not the biggest fan of urban fantasies, so that did have a couple points like against it. But overall, this was still really solid, so I'm very sad I have to burn the Goddess of. All right, I feel like that was a pretty good first round. So moving in to round 2, let's see. Okay, first up we have Blood of Hercules. This is going to be a terrible round, I can already tell. So Blood of Hercules is my top why choose romantasy book at the moment. We are following Alexis, and Alexis lives in a world that has been overrun by Titans. And the only people that are able to stop the Titans are Spartans, who are descended from gods. So Alexis is an orphan, and she's being raised by these foster parents that are very neglectful, and she is just trying to get by. So when she comes of age, she ends up taking this test that designates her for having Spartan blood. So she is immediately ripped away from her world and sent to this Spartan war college where she has to fight to the death. And if she is able to survive, she will be granted a mentor or 2, and they will hopefully teach her how to fight and survive and fight the Titans. Now, like I said, this is why I choose, and all of the love interests are the most morally gray you could possibly imagine, if not just evil. But I love the humor in this book, and this book is so good. Like I said, one of my favorites. There's also a pet snake, so even better. All right. Next up, we have Fear the Flames by Gianna Darling. I knew it was going to be a bad round. I knew it. So this is a fantasy romance. We are following this princess that when she was born, she bonded with dragons, but there was already a prophecy that if this happened, it could spell doom for the kingdom. So her father, the king, ends up locking her up along with her dragons, and she is eventually able to escape, but she has to leave her dragons behind. Then we jump forward a few years, and she's kind of established her own little kingdom in secret, but she's still longing for her dragons. So she has to align herself with her father's greatest enemy to try to pull off this heist to get her dragons back. So it's like reluctant allies to lovers, really spicy. I love this book. It has a Game of Thrones moment at the end that I was obsessed with. So, darn. And the last book is, of course, it's Quicksilver. It's Quicksilver. So I hate this round. I hate it. Quicksilver is another one of my top fantasy romance books that I've read recently. It is a dark romantasy. We're following this girl who is a thief living under the immortal queen's dying rule, and she ends up trying to steal something in order to survive. She is captured and is gravely wounded, but before she can succumb to her injuries, this rift opens up and a fae comes out who happens to be Kingfisher, and he ends up taking our main character to the fae realm where he magically binds himself to her because he believes she is able to manipulate this sentient magical compound that he believes might be able to save his people, and I loved this book. So this is going to be dreadful. I'm going to go find the books, and then we're going to have some very, very tough decisions to make. All right, so I am back with the books. I must say, in my almost 5 years of doing BookTube, this might be one of the worst rounds of this game I've ever had. I know which book I'm going to save, and it's going to be a very, very controversial pick, but I know for a fact it is Blood of Hercules. I love this book, mostly because I very rarely laugh out loud when I am reading a book. I just don't love, I don't want to say I don't love humor, but it's very rare that I find something very, very funny. The main character's dark humor in this, I could not stop laughing. I also love all of the romances. I'm so interested to see what's going to happen with this main character. I just love everything about this. So Blood of Hercules is safe. Which brings us to Fear the Flames and Quicksilver. I gave both of these 5 stars. They were both my top reads. Yeah. So, I will say, okay, so the thing is, I know which one I enjoy more. However, I feel like I could really, really fix one doing the rewrite, and then I would like that one more. But I'm not sure if I want to go that route. I don't know. I don't even know if what I just said made sense to you guys. Welcome to my brain. So, I don't know. I think I'm going to regret this while I'm editing. I am going to rewrite Quicksilver, probably just condense it a little bit. I feel like some of the pacing in this was a little bit slow, but also necessary because this is the first book in a series. So it did have a lot of like world building and things to explain, but I did find the pacing of this a little bit slow. So I might do some like very minor edits to Quicksilver. So this is the one I will rewrite, which means I am burning Fear the Flames. I'm also really hoping, because it's a book about dragons, maybe it's not like it won't succumb to fire or something like that. We're gonna go with that. But this is the one I have to burn. So unfortunately, Fear the Flames is getting sacrificed. All right, so that last round was not my favorite. There are still about 6 books left, so let's see. All right, so first up we have Lady of Darkness by Melissa K. Roehrich. This is a dark romantasy. We are following Scarlet. And when Scarlet was very young, she was orphaned and she was found by the Assassin Lord, who raised her along with her 2 adoptive sisters to be amazing killers. Now, all Scarlet wants is to get revenge on the Fae Fire Prince that she believes has killed her family. And the Assassin Lord has this information and he's kind of holding it over Scarlet's head in order to control her. Well, that is until he decides he wants someone killed. So he tells Scarlet, hey, if you're able to kill this person, I will give you the information that you are searching for. But before Scarlet can do that, she discovers that there are these children that are going missing, and the story really progresses from there. I will say the first book kind of gave me like Throne of Glass vibes, and then the second book, very much Inner Circle ACOTAR, but I am loving every minute. I'm actually in the middle of a read-along along with my patrons, so definitely join us if you're considering picking up the series. All right, and next up, I actually have Reign of Shadows and Endings in here, so it'll be interesting if I get like 2 books by the same author. Ooh, okay, Peaches and Honey. I don't talk about this book often, but I read it recently, and the writing in this is so, so beautiful. So in this book, it's very similar to The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. We're following this girl who has vitiligo. I believe she's living in like the 1800s, and she's kind of ostracized from society. So one day she's living, like I said, kind of on the outskirts of this town, and she stumbles upon this stranger who she ends up offering kindness to instead of hostility. And he rewards her by giving her this magical peach that when she takes a bite, she finds out she is now immortal. So the rest of the book is just her living life and observing both the beauty and also the atrocities of humanity, all while the magical being that turned her immortal is kind of guiding her and a romance begins to blossom. I actually like this way more than The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, and I cannot wait for the sequel to release via audio. And then last up we have, ooh, this is gonna be a good round. Okay, Anathema. This is a dark gothic romantasy. And this is by Keri Lake, so perfect for like the fall, like spooky season. But we are following another orphan that when she was a baby, she was left outside this haunted wood known as the Witch Knell. And now she has grown up as part of this like patriarchal community. And people, when they like do something wrong, are actually sent to the Witch Knell as a form of like punishment. You're kind of sent there and never seen again. So her sister ends up doing something that warrants this punishment, and she doesn't want her sister to enter the Witch Knell alone, so she follows her. But when she gets in there, she ends up entering a different realm, and then she meets Xander, who is this assassin who's very attractive, very mysterious, and it's a romance between them. I also need the sequel to that book ASAP. So let me grab the books. All right, I have the books. I do not want to burn any of these. I also don't want to rewrite any of these. Honestly, this is like an entire grouping of books I would just love to reread, but that wouldn't fit this challenge. So I am going to do my work backwards approach and decide which one I want to get rid of first, and then try to go from there. Ooh, okay. It's hard because they're all like dark romantasy. Even Peaches and Honey has a bit of like an unsettling vibe, and that's my favorite. So like it makes it so much more difficult. I think I'm going to reread Anathema by Keri Lake. This book just has all of the perfect gothic eerie vibes. I love Keri Lake's writing, and this was so good. So I will rewrite Anathema by Keri Lake. I'm sorry, I will reread Anathema by Keri Lake, which means I have to rewrite one of these books. And here's the thing. I could not rewrite this. This book is already so beautifully written. It would just be a disservice. And Lady of Darkness also really enjoyed the writing, but I will say, as I've been progressing, I feel like the writing has gotten stronger and stronger. So I think I will rewrite Lady of Darkness by Melissa K. Roehrich, just to also help with pacing. But the story in the very beginning, I remember having like a little bit of trouble understanding. Now it is the first book in a series, so that could also be why. But I feel like I could just make this a little bit cleaner. Which unfortunately means I am burning Peaches and Honey. But I'm really only burning it because I don't think I could improve on this book at all. It is already perfection. I just don't have as much of a like emotional connection as I do with the other two books. All right, and that brings us to our final round. So first up, we have Reign of Shadows and Endings by Melissa K. Roehrich. This is probably my favorite dark fantasy romance of all time. I love this series so much. So it does play around with the captor-captive trope, so definitely check trigger warnings. But this is following a girl named Tessa, and Tessa lives in a world where the gods have granted power to their children, the Legacy, and the Legacy rule over the Fae. Our main character, Tessa, happens to be a Fae. So when she comes of age, she finds out that she is going to be the primal source to the heir of endings. And she's going to have these tattoos placed upon her that'll allow the primal source Theon to be able to sense when she's near, feel her emotions, become attracted to her and she him. And it's just a huge breach in like your personal feelings. So she wants nothing to do with this. And the first book is really her trying to gain her freedom and autonomy when everyone else is trying to use her for their own means. It also has vampires, certain shifters. I love this series. So that is probably going to be the one I reread. Spoiler alert. And next up we have A Fire in the Sky. I actually added this because I don't have any like really strong feelings regarding it. I think I gave it like 4 stars. But in this story, we are following this girl that when she was a young child, she was orphaned and she was found by the king and queen who took her in and raised her as their own, except for the fact that she has 3 sisters, so the 3 princesses, and she is the royal whipping girl, which means anytime one of the 3 like actual princesses does something that warrants punishment, she has to take the punishment for the princesses. And things become so much worse when one of the princesses is betrothed to this like barbarian king, and instead they end up sending the royal whipping girl. And then there's also dragons in there somewhere. Don't worry about it. Overall, this was a very unique story, and I will be reading the sequel. And then the last book is Amid Clouds and Bones. This is by Ella Field. This is another dark fantasy romance. I didn't realize most of these were dark fantasy romance, so sorry about that. But in this, we are following this half-fae, half-human princess who ends up in an arranged marriage to the heir of the Seelie Kingdom in order to like align their people and go up against the Unseelie court. Now the only issue is the heir of the Seelie Kingdom is a complete jerk and literally tries to make our main character's life a living hell until she starts getting good at playing games right back at him, and they start to have a bit of a romance. That is until she is sent to his greatest enemy, and it goes from there. I love this. It really gave me like the Cruel Prince vibes, but a grown-up kind of darker version. So let me grab those books and we will make our final decision. All right, so I am back with the books, and surprisingly, I actually think this is the easiest round by far. So I don't even have to think about it. I am rereading Reign of Shadows and Endings. I love this series. It's so good. It's so dark. It's filled with action. I love the characters. I love everything about it. So 100% rereading Reign of Shadows and Endings. And then I think I'm going to rewrite A Fire in the Sky because there are a lot of, like I said, very unique like plot points that I feel like we can expand upon and just make it a more immersive story. I feel like this book kind of feels a little disjointed, where the first half feels like we're in one book and then the second half takes it a completely different direction. So I feel like just melding those two together would make this a 5-star read. So I would rewrite A Fire in the Sky. And it pains me to do this, but I will burn Amid Clouds and Bones. Had this been pretty much any other book by Ella Field, I would not be able to burn it. But this is one of my least favorite books by her, probably. I think Nectar of the Wicked is my new favorite, and then A King So Cold, then A Stray Prince, and like all of the others. But I'm okay with burning this one. All right, guys, that is it for my reread, rewrite, and burn book challenge. Please let me know down in the comments below if you would have made any different decisions. Are there any books that you would have saved, that I burned, etc.? I'm always interested to see like what choices you guys would make. And I'd like to say a special thank you to my Paladin protectors, Leslie, Lotta, Kat, Jess, Amanda, Spoon, and the Sarah Andrea family. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. And I said this already, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye.